Hello, this is Jim McKeith, and welcome to Cool Tricks for VCL Styles. That little icon down the corner is my attempt at a cool style. So clearly, the ability to match colors is not required to make great looking apps with VCL Styles, thank goodness. Real quick about me, I'm the Chief Developer Advocate for Embarcadero Technologies, a longtime software developer, and very excited to be here today talking to you about VCL Styles. For our agenda, we're going to start with an overview of VCL styles, look at managing some styles, how to use the Bitmap Style Designer, then we'll modify styles and create some custom styles. VCL styles permit you to change the appearance of VCL controls. It's kind of like Windows theming. A control is made up of parts and states. So when you're designing styles or applying styles, you need to understand that there's different parts and different states that make up a control. If you want to just change the style for your project, simply, you can go to Project Options Application Appearance and select a style from there. The VSF, which is VCL Style Files, is found in the folder you see there. And there are also redistributable styles available as well. If you purchased and got the bonus pack, you can get the VCL Premium Style Pack at the URL you see there. And for an overview of VCL styles, check out that URL down at the bottom in the doc wiki. So this is an example of the parts and states. So the scroll bar has different parts here. It has the frame, then there's the slider, and then there's 4 different buttons. And those buttons, there's a left button, a right button, an up button, and a down button. And then there's different states for those. So there's pressed, disabled, hot. Hot would be when the mouse cursor is over it. So on a Windows or Mac OS X, you'd have a mouse cursor over it, although VCL is Windows only. So on Windows and the mouse cursor is over it, that would be hot. And then normal is otherwise. So right now you'd see the normal state. So what are some of the limitations for VCL styles? In order for a control to be styled, it must have a valid owner. So typically that's the form. But if you do put another control on there, you can set it to either owner on the form as long as it roots down to the form. Don't ever set the owner to nil or the style won't be applied. On T-Combo Box, if you use the Auto Suggest option, then it gets painted, the window that pops up gets painted by Windows. But if you use the normal drop down, then it gets painted by the VCL style. And the T pop-up menu has the functionality where if it's larger than the screen height, it will automatically scroll. That's a Windows function. But when it's being painted by VCL styles, that doesn't occur. So instead, you want to use the tMenuItem.break property to break the pop-up menu into columns. Although if your pop-up menu is bigger than the height of the screen, that might be a design issue. And the other limitation is you can only apply one style at a time to the entire form. This is how you manage styles at runtime. So we've looked at how to apply styles, but this is how you'd manage them at runtime. Everything you need here is actually in the VCL.style or VCL.themes namespace. So the style service is what you use to get information about the current style. It's also what performs the drawing of the controls. You can learn about the style service by looking at the T-Custom Styles service, and that interface is what defines what the style service is capable of doing. So that's how you find out what the functions that are available from there. The style engine, T-Style engine, is what you use to register a hook class for custom VCL components. And a hook class is what you use if you're creating a custom VCL component that you want to perform specific styling functions on. So your hook class would descend from T-Style and it would then respond to calls to perform the styling of your custom control. And then the T-Style Manager is what you use to load, register, and select styles at runtime. And also you can use that to get, register, and unregister the style engine, which is what you use for the hook classes. There's a few useful code snippets here. If you want to display a list of styles, really what you're doing is you're using the Style Manager style names, which is an array of styles, and you're adding it to a list box. Don't necessarily have to add it to a list box, but that's just a simple example. To change a style at runtime, once the style has been added to your project, you can use Style Manager try set style and the name of the style. The true or false is whether or not it should show an error dialog. To load a style at runtime from a file, you use load from file, And once you've done that, then you can try setting it again. If you want to change like system dialogues and what's being themed and what's not being themed, you can use the system hooks, and that's a set there, and you can add and subtract items from that set. The Bitmap Style Designer, which is found under Tools, Bitmap Style Designer, is what you use to create, edit, and test both VCL and FireMonkey styles. You can also use it to convert a VCL style, a VSF, VCL style file, into a FireMonkey styles by saving it as a .style file. If you're like me, you don't feel like you're a real creative type, that's okay. Anybody can use the Bitmap Style Designer to create and distribute new styles. So you can work with a designer to modify or create a custom style image. You could just export the image, have them modify it, re-import it, or you can buy a style from DelphiStyles.com. They have both FireMonkey and VCL styles available. So this is a third option of styles. There's the styles we ship, the styles that come in the VCL Styles Premium Pack, and then Delphi styles. And I guess the fourth option would be styles you create yourself. There's a few example VCL styles from DelphiStyles.com. I think this is about half of the ones they have, and they probably will be adding new in the future as well. So if you are interested in some additional styles, check that out. Your crash course in VCL styles. You need a VCL application. Works the same in VCL or C++ Builder, just different code. You can find the code in the doc wiki, the differences, but I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out. Standard Delphi application or VCL application here. I'm going to put a button down and a menu, a pop-up menu, and an open dialog. Now, one notice here, this is a Vista dialog. This is not styled because this is specifically a Vista dialog. If you want a style dialog, then use the open dialog or one of the other dialogs, the non-Vista dialogs. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these out here, and I'm just going to wire this up really quick. All right, and we'll run this. And right now, this is just the standard Windows style. Tooltip. Oh, I had to turn the show hint on. And I got to wire up the pop-up menu. So now we're going to go ahead and set a style. So we're going to project options, application appearance, and we choose a style we want to use. Let's go with turquoise gray. We can preview that style here. Say, yeah, I like that style. Or we can say, you know what, let's go with vapor. Oh, I thought turquoise gray select. I was like, that looks the same. Vapor. Yeah, let's go with vapor. A little more dramatic difference. So I run this and see our tooltips styled, our pop-up menu styled, our menu is styled, and our dialog is styled. Now you can change all that by going into the project view source dot system hooks equals, and we'll just do an empty set. So those three things, menus, dialogues, and tooltips, can be turned on or off through this here. And so now my menus are no longer styled. My tooltip is still styled. Interestingly, my dialog is not. So I can also here see this is where it sets the style automatically. So when you make that change in the project options, it sets that style. And you can come in here as well, and on a particular component, you can find style elements, and you can turn style elements off on font, client, and border. And we can also change the style that's assigned to that. There's a few different styles you can choose from here. But actually, make another button real quick and do that. So this button will leave styled, and we will set it to style command link. Sure. Oh, there we go. So we can see it right there. Command link. That's pretty slick. And there's a split button. So I like command link. That's kind of cool looking. So we'll run this. Let's see, there's our command link button. This button now has no styles applied to it because we turned them all off. So there, that's kind of a quick crash. Oh wait, one more thing I wanted to show you. So let's go here, list box, and oops, put that right here, and fill up here with it. And we're going to fill this with all of the styles that are loaded into our application. And so you can do that by list. Now, before this will work, I have to come in here and say uses VCL.themes. So that's the namespace this is defined in. So now notice the red squiggly line's gone away. So I can run this and we'll get a list of styles. Maybe. Oh, add. It's add strings, because that's an array that we get back. So right now we just have Windows and Vapor in there. We can come in here, project options, and we can include all the styles. And now we run it, we see all the styles. So now let's load one of those styles in here. When we click on it, easily enough, try set style, and we want to do, and then try set style. Let's see, we'll put an error dialog here. True. So it'll display an error dialog if it is not able to set the style, which it should always be able to set the style, but we can now just switch between styles really easily there. So there we go. Now I'm going to turn it over to Serena DuPont for a moment, and she's going to show you how to modify and create a custom VCL style.
So in this case, what I want to do is I want to create a custom style for my Windows application for the T-switch control. So if I drag and drop T-switch onto my form here, you can see that if I select the style lookup menu, I have a single style option. And what I want to do now is apply a modern Windows 10 style to this control and then customize that style. So to get started, I'm going to go to Tools, Bitmap Style Designer, and this brings up the Bitmap Style Designer. And this is the tool that we also use to create all of our styles, the default styles and the premium styles. And so I thought today I'd walk you through the steps of creating your own custom style. So the way the Bitmap Style Designer is designed is you'll see here that we have kind of a blank form or a getting started point with a style PNG, and we have a lot of templates that you can choose from. So in this case, we're going to choose File New, click right here, and we're going to select a new Windows Modern style. And this gives us a Windows 10 style template. So now if I expand the images node here, you'll see we have style, which is the 1x style. This is also the style that's used at design time, 1.5x, 2x, and 3x. Now, we provide 3x to account for high-resolution devices. This is something that you don't necessarily need to do for Windows application and when you're creating a custom style, but it's recommended. So what you can see here is I have the different styles. So now what I want to do, I want to go in and actually customize the style for T-switch. Here you can see the style elements that are part of the switch control. So this is a round shape. This is in the Windows 10 style. And I want to replace that with my own custom style. Now I'm going to move over to Photoshop and I'm going to show you how I created the style elements for the switch control style. Now you don't need to use Photoshop. You can also use another image editing program. But my goal today was to show you and give you a better understanding of how to lay out the style elements that you will ultimately use to create a custom style for either all of your controls or some of the controls in your application. So here's a layout that I have created. You can see this is the switch frame. This is the fill, and then we have the thumb that is activated as you're sliding the switch control. So we need our graphic in 4 different resolutions, 1x, 1.5x, 2x, and 3x, and we also have to follow those naming conventions. So what I have here is you can see I have a transparent PNG, and this is the layout I've created for my switch. The way that I did this is I just did File, New, in Photoshop, and you select your pixels. So in this case, I've set it to 180 pixels by 120 pixels. I've zoomed in, so it's easier to do the layout. And then I've just used the rectangle tool to draw a shape. So I'm going to use the rectangle tool here, and in this case, I'm going to deselect the fill color and just do a stroke outline. So this is my rectangular shape, and then I can just right click and select duplicate layer. And this below here is going to be, I'm going to move this down. This is going to be the filled shape, the filled frame. And now what I'm going to do is go back to my control here, and I'm going to select a fill color. And I'm going to deselect the stroke. So this is a good example of the frame and the fill colors. You can see this matches what I did right here. And then we want to create the thumb. So one of the things you could do, of course, as well, is you could select your original rectangle. You could select, right click it and select duplicate layer. Then you select it and move it over. And then now you could resize it. And that ensures that it has the proper height. And now you can fill this. Again, you go back to the rectangle. I'm going to change the fill color, let's say to blue. The stroke, I don't want to show a stroke on the thumb graphic. And then I can right click this again. And I could go ahead and select duplicate layer. Use the move tool, and I can go move down the shape. And I can go and select the rectangle again. And I'm going to change this to a different fill color. You don't need to start out with a 180 by 120 pixel graphic. That's really up to you. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to start out with a shape that's large enough that when you are done saving this out as the 3x graphic, and you should follow the same naming convention. So I have switch 30x, and then you should do switch 20x for 2x, switch 15x for 1.5x, and switch.png. There's no number for the 1x. Because the actual Bitmap Style Designer looks at the naming convention of the PNGs that you're adding to determine the resolution of those graphics. So it's really important that you're following the same naming convention. So then if you wanted to resize this, you could go to image size and you could select 50%, for example, to go from 3x to 1.5x. And then you would go back and go to File, Save As, and you would save this out as your PNG. For example, my switch 1.15x.png. Okay, so now let's go back to the Bitmap Style Designer. So right here, I'm going to select Images, I'm going to select Add, and I'm going to browse to my folder where I have my switch graphics. So this is switch.png, this is my switch 1x size. And I'm going to go to switch 15x. So now I'm going to add my 2x resolution switch control graphic. And then I'm going to add my 3x resolution graphics. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the objects tree. And then right over here, I'm going to select to add a new switch element. Okay, so here it is. And you can see it has a frame and a thumb. So I'm going to select style object 1_switch. And I'm going to rename this to a new name. And the new name is what you will ultimately see when you have the style loaded and applied to your application in the style lookup drop-down menu. So this name here is what you will see in the style lookup drop-down. So I'm going to say my custom switch code range. Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select frame and I'm going to select bitmap. Going to go to 1x right here. And you can zoom in because you want to map out this control, so it makes it a lot easier if you're able to zoom in. And so for frame, I just want this graphic right here. The purple color is actually to indicate the transparency. So I'm going to click up here, and then I'm going to control click down here and hit apply. And for pressed, I'm going to select the green color, which is the fill color for my switch control, and then control click right here. And you just want to outline the graphic. Select apply. And then I'm going to right click onto the new switch control and select automatically adjust object for all graphic resolutions. So what that means is, as you saw, I just mapped out the frame control, mapped it to the frame and the fill color. And I only did that for the 1x resolution. So in order not to have to manually go through and actually do that for all the resolutions, all I had to do is select automatically adjust objects, and you'll see that this has added the other style objects. So this has added a frame for 1.5x. This has added a frame for 2x and for 3x. And if I go and select bitmap for 3x, for example, you can see that this is already mapped to my graphic. Now we want to do the same for the thumb. So for the thumb, we're going to select Bitmap. And we're going back to 1x. Click and then Control click. Hit apply. And we're going to select Bitmap Pressed. 1x. And we're going to select it. And then Control click. And hit apply. And again, we want to apply and propagate those changes to 1.5x, 2x, and 3x. So we're going to go up here and select Automatically Adjust Object for all graphic resolutions. So that applies all the changes across all the graphics. And then you can also right-click here and select Test Object Style. And you can test that for all the resolutions. So you can right-click here and select Test Object Style with 2x resolution. And then you're able to test the 2x resolution. So now I'm going to save my style. And then I'm going to actually save it out. So first I just saved my style template. And I'm going to save out my style as a FireMonkey style. So you want to select .style from the drop-down menu. And hit save. And I'm going to close the Bitmap Style Designer. So now I'm going to drop a style book onto my form. I'm going to load my custom style. I'm going to browse to the location right here. We have the style coderange.style. That's the style that we just created. I'm going to close this and apply the style to the style book. Then on the form, I'm going to activate and select the style book. Now you can see it has the Windows 10 style. And if I select T-Switch and I go to the style lookup, you can see now I have my custom switch. This is my CodeRange custom switch style element. And if I resize the object inspector pane here, you can see that the style element has the exact name that I assigned earlier via the Bitmap Style Designer. So let's hit run and we can have a look at the style. Now you can see that this control currently has a fixed size. So what if I want to resize the control and make it resizable? I can go back to Tools, Bitmap Style Designer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my style template. Going back to my location right here, the .vsf file, that's my style template. Then I'm going to expand the Objects node. And under the Objects node, I'm going to browse to my custom switch underscore code range. Select a frame, and I'm going to set margins. So I'm going to set 2 here for margin bottom, left, right, and top. And I'm going to do the same for the thumb. And by setting margins, we're enabling the ability to resize the control. So after setting that, I'm going to right-click and select Automatically Adjust Object for all graphic resolutions. And then if you have a look here, for example, it automatically sets the proper margins for 1.5x, for 2x, etc. I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to save this out as a style file again. So for example, CodeRange, style CodeRange 2. And then I'm going to load the style. Double click on the style book. Select the style. Close the style editor. And then you can see here now I can go in and actually resize the control. So this gives you the extra flexibility if you want to have a style that has a resizable switch control.
Great. Thank you, Serena. She is so much more talented at that artistic stuff than I am working your way around Photoshop. I'm not very fast at that. So for more information, of course, you want to make sure you get the VCL Premium Style Pack. There is a link to the doc wiki there on working with VCL Styles that links to most of the stuff we talked about today. If you're wanting to work with styles at runtime, use the VCL Themes namespace, and there's the library doc wiki page for that. There's a blog post by Serena DuPont for creating and customizing VCL styles. Very useful information there. And then a CodeRange session from CodeRange 10 with Ray Konopka on skinning VCL applications with VCL styles. The most important link, though, is that one there at the bottom, embt.co/uppercase VCLS for styles and W for webinar. and that will have the links for the slides, the replays, and some additional resources. And with that, it's time for Q&A. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the question panel in the GoToWebinar software. We'll get them answered for you. There's a few questions here already. Does loading all the styles increase the exe size? So if you go through, like I showed, and embed all the styles into the exe, then yes, it will increase the exe size because you are embedding those styles into the exe. The alternative is you can distribute the style files, or I pointed out that there's a redist folder. If you grab those style files and provide them separately from your exe, you can then load them from file, like I showed in that code snippet. And then you have you can distribute styles without having them larger, your exe larger. You're still distributing the same bits, just in different places, so depends on what your ultimate objective is, I suppose, in that regard. Comments about some odd behaviors in the pop-up menu on the VCL with styles. If you would email me those or make sure they're in the quality portal, quality.embarcadero.com, we will certainly look those over. And yeah, sorry about the video being small. I'm not sure what happened there. I want to change the color of the font in, for example, a dark style. The change should only be for text in a list box with property enabled setting to false. I don't see a proper object between fonts, objects, and style. Let's see. So it would be font. Okay, so font apparently is not attached to a state that I see. So you'd have to you could do that manually by turning off the styling and then programmatically change the font. Yeah, because font does not appear to be attached to state. It's only attached to an object. The URL you see there on the screen, embt.co/VCL Styles webinar in proper case, is where you'll be able to find the replay later. If you missed part of it, a couple people commented about that. The apply button is missing. I have to look into that. Sorry. Let's see. Serena showed a FireMonkey style use case. Is this multi-resolution feature also available for VCL? It is in VCL because the VCL has high definition HDPI as well. In the style editor, can you define non-rectangular areas for the various parts? So in the style editor, you define rectangular areas, but you have a background color that gets essentially ignored. So that's how that works as far as the non-rectangular area. Oh, all of the parts that are drawn are rectangular as far as I believe. Can styles be stored in a DLL? You should be able to. You would need to use the load from resource to load it from a resource, and you could embed it, have a resource DLL, and you could just do load style from resource, try load style from resource, which is the same as try load style from file, except, or not try load style from resource, but you would then instead provide a resource identifier instead of file name. And as long as the DLL is loaded, it should work, I believe. I have not tried that, to be honest, but it should work.
Hey, Jen, it's Stephen here.
Hey, Stephen.
Hey. Sorry, I've been a little bit late on. I was fighting with GoToWebinar to get in to actually just hear things but couldn't see anything. So just going back to one of the questions about the dark style and being able to modify a T-list box with the property when it's enabled. If you open up the Bitmap Style Designer and choose the font, as you scroll down, there are a few list item entries there, and there is one for list item text disabled. So if that picks up the when it's edited or enabled equals false, which I imagine it probably would do, then you should be able to modify that there specifically just for that one item. And there's kind of list item text focus, list item text hot, list item text normal, and list item text selected. So they're the different states that are there for list items. So that may well give you what you need. And there's similar things for menu items and panels, and pop-ups and radio buttons, and static text and tab text and tool items. So quite a few different item control items specifically entered in there. You just selected them as the change colour, which you can use. One of the things that I really saw, so I don't know if he's showed it here, was the being able to just modify the actual bitmap, change the hue and saturation of it to give a different variation on the theme, which is pretty cool. But obviously, if you do that, then you do need to come in and change the font. So that's definitely worth finding.
Oh, you're correct. I see that now. I looked at the wrong spot. You're correct. I see that.
Yeah, hit down the side, scroll down.
Yep. Let's see. Is T main menu able to scroll when there are lots of items? When I tested styles last time, it was not able to scroll them. I don't think so. I believe that would also, it's probably the same thing as puppet menu is not able to scroll them with styles applied. So I would suggest splitting them off and making into multi-columns. There may be a situation where you need to have that on all of them, but I would recommend against that. How can I deactivate style for the open file dialog? So the open dialog, you can do it via the system hooks I showed. But the, what is it, the file open dialog? Let me make sure I'm looking at the right one here. The one that's in the Vista dialogs, you can't style because it is the Vista specific dialog, whereas the, okay, so open dialog or open text file dialog, you can style via the system hooks. But the one that's in the Vista folder, which was the file open dialog, which is the Vista dialogs category, you can't style. So it's all done via the system hooks. There's a couple other ways to do it as well, but the system hooks is the recommended way to do it by changing that set. Can one put animations into the styles? For example, rotating globe as the thumb in a switch. No, the styles are done via static images, but you could add a, well, let's see. I haven't looked at doing it with
FireMonkey.
Yeah. With FireMonkey, you can embed it in there. Can you do it as part of the style, though, Stephen?
As part of an FMX style, you can, yeah, because
okay.
you can say, right, because the styles in FMX are basically built up of base primitives. So the way FireMonkey works, in essence, is that there's a set of base primitives for a rectangle, text, circle, triangle, those kind of things. And then all the components are built on top of those. Because then when you start rendering across different platforms and different GPU outputs and so on, it's just those base primitives that need to be remapped to enable the framework to go cross-platform. And part of those styles that basically make up the components are you have the ability to use the animations and the effects in there. So you can put a glow effect, you can make a pencil effect, or whatever it is. There's like 50 no-code hardware effects in there that you can use. So you can just apply those in and save style out, and then you're good to go.
It says a similar saying, I want a mirror version of a component for right to left languages purposes. Example, a tree view. Is it possible to do that in styles only? Not in styles only, but VCL does support right to left versus left to right. So, but you could do it in VCL. That's not something that's supported in FireMonkey at this time.
Yeah, with that said, there are a few controls on FireMonkey now that you have the ability to render as the platform control.
That's true.
So you can choose if you want to create an edit control from FireMonkey or from iOS, for example. And it's really hard to tell the difference between because they are pixel perfect representations. It's only when you start kind of clicking in, you have a look at the pop-up dialogues, and you notice that there might be kind of an additional thing on the iOS one. But then the benefit of getting that is that you then lose the benefit of being able to theme it if you want to and use the animations and the other effects and so on. So certainly from a data entry form point, being able to hit submit, and then anything that's not filled in, just enable a red glow effect around it, for example. Use that immediate usability feedback straight away, which you'll lose if you're using the platform rendered control. So there are pros and cons for going both ways. But you can switch, well, although it's not officially supported, you can kind of switch it at runtime. So that might be an option to look at if you are needing to have the native one for specific elements. But certainly kind of memos and edit boxes, you should be able to switch into work to there potentially.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, the owner-drawn, or not the owner-drawn, the platform controls versus the theme styled controls. Those are available on Windows and iOS, and they're coming soon to other platforms as well. So I showed them off the differences on the mobile bootcamp last week. Okay, well, I think we're done with questions for now. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And you can find the replay eventually at the URL you see on screen, embt.co/VCL Styles webinar. We're going to have some lots of more webinars coming up here in the near future. You can find those online at community/events. There's a great one, I think it's later this week, with Ray Konopka on FireMonkey animations and transitions, which I'm looking forward to. And let's see. Yes, FireMonkey animations and tab transitions is on Thursday, so be sure you can join us for that one. And until next time, may all your code compile and your programs be exceptional. Thanks so much.
Happy coding, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the question panel here and go to webinar, and we'll get them answered for you. Is there a way to download the material of this webinar? I'm not sure what material you want to download. The slides are posted at the link I just provided there, where you can grab the, you can download the slides from there, I believe. They're a Google Slides document, and I think you can download those as a PDF. As far as the, most of the other stuff was just little bits of code, which you can pull from the slides or from the video, I guess. So I'm not sure exactly specifically what you need. I'll put the replay up as for YouTube, and you can download the YouTube video. Any guides on what size bitmap each component requires? What I would do is look at an existing style and see how it's set up, but also remember you can change the way they look and behave based on the style. So, you can have the style, like Serena showed, make that a resizable switch instead. So I would look at the existing styles to get an idea, but also remember you can change that and go beyond what that does. That webinar there on skinning Windows apps with Ray Konopka is a really good one there as well, so make sure you check that one out. I guess skinning VCL apps actually is the technical term of it, but so check that one out, and do go out and take a look at some of the Delphi styles as well. There's lots of great styles you can choose from on there. And with that, I think we are done with questions. So thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you online at future webinars.